Hello everyone and welcome back to this mini-series about Karens. In the previous videos we've discussed what the term Karen means and started our discovery through the history of the United States. What we're trying to do is find historical events that might confirm our hypothesis that being a Karen could be about how one views one's own freedom compared to the freedom of people in the society as a whole. So far we've only touched on the very beginning of the United States, back before they even were the United States, and today we will go a little bit further in history. 1719. In an effort to clean up Paris, prisoners are offered freedom if they'd marry a prostitute and move to America. This didn't really work out well for everyone involved. Turns out that sending a bunch of criminals and beggars and prostitutes, some forcefully and without any means of survival, to the same place isn't exactly the great idea that it might sound like. Many died in the first few years, but think about how the ones who survived and even thrived there would have felt about America. To them, it was the literal land of freedom. They had gained their own personal freedom and a hooker by moving to this country. I think it's safe to say that in his mind, his own personal freedom would be very important for the rest of his life. It should be noted here that this whole affair was an utter failure. The criminals that arrived in Louisiana caused most of the colonists and even the soldiers living there to move to other places. After 60 years or so, there was really no one left in that particular colony. But even that brings up a pretty interesting point about these settlers' view on freedom. They didn't like what their colony was turning into, so they simply left and found someplace else that they liked better.
You know, the great thing is, if you don't like your neighbors, you can just pull up the anchor and sail someplace else.
The whole country was theirs for the taking, and if they didn't like what they found, they could just keep going until they did. Again, we see some worldviews that, if they were to take root in this early stage of a new nation, could foster a feeling that the world around you are only there to cater to you and what you want. A worldview like that being passed on through families in generation after generation could very well lead to a feeling of entitlement. But let's move on. 1776. America declares its independence. Now, this is a big one. The colonies no longer wanted to be a subject to the English throne. Naturally, this was a period where freedom was on everyone's mind. The Thompson family might have described their situation like this. Our forefathers came to this country to escape English oppression and to be free. America is the land where everyone is free to do as they wish, and we will make sure to stand against the English tyrants who would want to take away this right. In this period, everyone fought for societal freedom, so naturally, that was what was important to the people who lived at this time. Slaves were even being freed, eventually, to fight for both sides. But then, imagine the sense of pride the Thompson family must have felt after it was all over. Now this is truly the land of the free. My children will be able to grow up living exactly how they'd like, and no one can tell them what they can or cannot do. What a country! The soldier thinking this thought is thinking about how he helped bring societal freedom to the country. But here is the danger of only teaching the history while ignoring the societal situation of the people that lived through it. The children of the American troops would be told about how their fathers fought for their right to live as they wanted. But if some of those fathers neglected to tell their children about the oppression that they lived through before that, then some of those children might not get the whole picture. For them, it wouldn't take many generations for the message to change from "my children can live however they see fit" to "my daddy says I can do whatever I want." Thanks for watching, and thanks to my subscribers and patrons for supporting the channel. This episode is a bit shorter this time and a bit late too. I've been very busy recently with some new voiceover work that I've gotten, but I wanted to get one of these episodes out as quickly as it was possible, so it had to be cut a little bit short. This series in general is also turning out to be a little bit longer than originally anticipated. I keep finding more examples and more time periods that I want to cover, but I have a feeling that people are really liking this series. Some have even said that they liked it better than the Caesar series, so I guess it's alright to extend it a little bit more than I originally intended to. In either case, thank you all for being here, and we'll see each other again in the next episode of Stick Figure History.